Hey y'all, it's Lindsey. In 2016, I modified my way of eating from a Nourishing Traditions style of eating, which really focuses in on sprouting your grains, sourdough, slow food, fermenting things like kombucha and beet kvass and kefir and those kinds of things. I moved from that way of eating to a sugar-free, low-carb way of eating to try to support ketosis in my body. I've had a long, arduous road when it comes to ways of eating. I've done a variety of different things, but when I moved from the Nourishing Traditions way of eating over to a more ketogenic friendly way of eating, I found myself missing things like bread. I found myself missing things like biscuits and cookies, cakes, and especially pastries. I used to work for a donut shop when I was in college, and I love donuts. But I also really love Danish. And in 2016, I found a great recipe for cheese Danish that was made with the cloud bread. Now, that recipe, I could not pinpoint where I saw it, but I guarantee you there's at least 70,000 different versions of those cheese Danish on the internet. So if you're so inclined, you can definitely go find those. Side story, we're in the process of shifting my 12-year-old daughter's way of eating over to a more metabolically friendly way of eating. And in that process, I'm trying to put together food options for her that are tasty and palatable for her while also being a better choice than white flour and white sugar. We're also in the process of doing this with the other two as well. It's just that the 12-year-old is the most intrigued by it, and so we're just kind of seizing the interest while we can. I love Nili'S new idea with the frozen butter shavings in the egg white bread. It's a very common technique in pastry baking and in order to use super cold butter. If you've ever made croissant, you know that. And so her application of the frozen butter in the egg white bread is a fantastic one. I've been out of town, and so I'm just now able to start trying to play around with this. So excite, much excite. If you are unfamiliar, Indigo Nili has a recipe video on her channel. I will be sure to link it in the iCards wherever those seem to be up here in the ether. I'm sure most of y'all, if you're here, you know Nili, you know. Let's go ahead and get started on making the bread portion, the egg white bread portion first. Then we'll make some filling and pull it all together. First thing I have done is I have already grated my butter, and that's 1 stick of butter. I have grated it, I have popped it into this bowl, and I have kept it in my freezer for probably about 30-35 minutes at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and keep that in my freezer while I move on to the next step. I am going to preheat my oven. I have a convection oven. So when I set it to 325, it will automatically adjust for the fact that it's a convection oven, and it will try to preheat just to the 300 mark. While that is preheating, I have prepped up some of my ingredients here. Right now I have my water, I have my gelatin right here, and I also put the rest of my dry ingredients in a bowl. I have my egg white protein powder, allulose, cream of tartar, and I do not have arrowroot powder. I do have acacia powder though, and that's what I will be swapping there. And then I also have my salt. I am going to go ahead and bloom my gelatin by sprinkling that over top of my water, giving that a minute to absorb some water, and then I will move on to the next step. My gelatin has bloomed, so I will now go ahead and add in the rest of these dry ingredients. I like to pre-whisk my ingredients because I usually find I make massive messes when I do this. I know this seems excessive, but for me it is necessary. Okay, I am going to bump up my speed to the full speed over here, the 10. And then I'm going to let this whisk until it becomes very stiff peaks for probably between 5 and 7 minutes. All right, you are excused. And I have lovely stiff peaks. I like it. They're like, look. A stiff peak, fantastic. I am now going to add in my whole egg powder. And there's my grated butter. So here's my batter. I have a parchment lined hamburger bun silicone mold, and then I have overflow here, and I'm just gonna use an ice cream scooper like this, and I'm going to fill up my molds. I attempted to make little wells for my fillings to go into. We shall see if that works. This is a little bit stickier than I expected it to be. But into the oven. And I'm going to start off with about 12 minutes. Now I'm gonna fill up the rest of this. You know how Entenmann's has those really big, long Danish that you cut in slices? Well, that's kind of my hopeful objective here. We'll see how it goes. While my pastry base is in the oven baking, I'm going to work on my cream cheese filling. So I'm going to use a block of cream cheese. I'm going to use some vanilla. I have some of my sweet blend here. I also had a little bit of this powdered confectioner's swerve. I'll use this first, and then if I need to supplement, I will add some more of my homemade sweet blend. A little bit of salt is really going to bring out the sweetness in this, and then a bit of lemon juice will work wonders. I also have 1 egg, and I'm gonna get this all kind of blended up. This is going to be to taste. So I might use a teaspoon of vanilla, I might use 2. I might use a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, I might use a 1/2 teaspoon. I just don't know at this point, but I'm going to mix this up until I like the flavor. timer is done for the top. Yes. Let that continue going. These are starting to set a little bit, so I want to get my filling on here because we need to continue baking after the filling is in the center. I want to taste the filling. It does have raw egg in it. I know exactly where this egg came from, so I don't feel uncomfortable with that, but use your own discretion. I like that. That works. Okay, both of my bases have come out of the oven. I have my cream cheese filling in a piping bag. Hopefully I can move quickly. All right, those kids are back in the oven. Let's do 8 minutes and see where that lands us. I think these probably need a little bit longer. They're not very golden. And I don't think that filling has fully cooked, so we're gonna let these go for a little longer. I do think this guy needs to be rotated. We'll rotate you. I think this will come out sooner. We're also gonna be logical and rotate that fella too. Okay, let's do another 3 minutes. While the timer is running down on those Danish, I am going to make a little bit of a glaze with some heavy cream and some of that confectioner's swerve and a pinch of salt, like tiniest pinch of salt. My cheese Danish are out of the oven. They have cooled enough for me to put some glaze over the tops of them. I only used some of the Swerve Confectioner's sweetener and a little bit of heavy cream, a pinch of salt, None of these measurements are exact. It's really a to your taste kind of a thing, but here are the little individual Danish, and then here's my big guy. I think this one will be probably a little bit less good, to be honest, just because I don't think I had enough of the cream cheese filling to give it a good amount of that, but I think this is the one that I want to cut into. These turned out very pretty in my opinion, so I'll save those and we will slice into this guy. All right, here is the little bit of Danish that I am going to try. It does not look like there's enough cream cheese filling on this, which will be a good note for the next time, but let's see how the extra frozen butter worked in the crust. Okay, first of all, there was enough cream cheese filling on this particular piece. And second of all, that bread recipe totally melts in your mouth. Not choky or anything. I was worried about the edges where there was no cream filling or the cream cheese filling. I was definitely worried about that zone getting a little bit too dry. But no. This recipe works really, really well for a keto-friendly cheese Danish. So I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna let the 12-year-old try out some of this Danish because she is having a conniption. And I hope to see you in my next video.